Welcome to What the Freak. I am stoked to be in the studio today with a good brother, a great friend who actually we've known each other for quite some time, and we recently reconnected within the last couple of years or so. Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nate. Good to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you enjoy, what you're up to. We'd just love to share with people what you're about.
Right on. Yeah, my name is Andrew. Go by Andy most of the time. I currently work on semi-trucks and trailers and stuff as my day job. It's not really my passion, but it's a good, solid job, good place to be, good skill to have. And when I'm not working, I like to pursue music, martial arts, motorcycles, and hiking for the most part. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What I'm about, I think that type of a description will unfold as I speak, and there's not really a summation that I could offer that's really good for that in my ears.
You can't summarize yourself in one sentence, your whole being.
I could try. But no, I can't.
Not a real question. So
no, I don't. So,
well, we're gonna get into some pretty deep topics today, and the first one we had discussed chatting about. I'll let you take it from here. This one we're just gonna start off with a banger.
Yeah, crystals. There's a lot of talk about crystals.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of angles, a lot of opinions, a lot of beliefs.
A lot of angles.
Angles, yeah. That's okay. Come on. All right. So there's a lot of angles about crystals, and I'm going to share with you some different angles and my opinions about this. Like, all right, though. When I first learned about crystals, I didn't really care. Though the first major thing I learned about crystals that I really appreciated was quartz, because quartz apparently holds a stable, consistent frequency, and that's how clocks are able to hold a time. Is that the electrical circuit goes through quartz, and that's how it's able to maintain its consistent pattern. So that was the first thing, and that was the most fascinating, and that was probably some sort of a catapult to, crystal magic is a thing. Maybe. But I think a lot of it boils down to belief, because the thing that brought me out of the crystal arena to where I am now is more, I would often read, this crystal is this name and this color and has these attributes. And I'm going to say 70% of the time, maybe more, the number one attribute was that it converts negative energy into positive energy. And I've just seen that so many times in all these different crystals. And I'm like, they all do the same fucking thing? Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Okay, good.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, good. So I'm like, okay,
Sorry, kids.
All these, sorry, Mom.
Sorry,
These
Mom.
crystals do the same fucking thing, apparently, except, these other attributes that they apparently have. And that just became too much for me. It pushed me overboard. I was like, no, these people have to be making this stuff up with this oversaturation of being exposed to like new age concepts and these different healing ideas. It made me really question hard what is happening here. So what I think is happening with the crystal belief converting negative to positive energy is that it's all happening in here.
Okay.
And
that mind.
And that can be applied to any object, concept, or belief. So I can decide that this pen has magical properties and magical powers because I can write with it. I can do magical things. I can write poetry that can change people's emotions, things like that. But I can deem this pen to have magical powers. And if I believe, then we start to get into placebo stuff, if I really truly believe that this thing is magic or that it can do these things, then maybe it will actually do that for me and in my system. So crystal magic is true and it's bullshit. Because it's really all about your belief system and the energy and attention that you put onto an object exterior to yourself to reflect it back into you. And so you're really playing self-placebo mind games with these types of things. That's my opinion on it.
Wow.
Sorry, hippies. I love you.
Wow. I love it. Dang. So what you're saying, if I'm hearing this right, is if you truly believed it, you could infuse the powers of curing cancer into that pen. if you were on a certain level of being able to believe that this magical pen, when I wave it across me, could like cure me of some disease.
That is an extreme depth to what I'm saying. I don't think that most people that are interested in that belief structure or that interested in using crystals go that far. So I would say that's a good one. That's hard.
And I asked that to be extreme purposely.
Yeah, you gotta go
because
to
I like
the
to
ends.
take things to the ends. Yeah. Exactly.
So
It's like, what is preventing oneself? This is what I'm curious about. What is preventing me from taking any random object and fusing it with my intention about something and pouring the whole of my belief into that thing and allowing that thing? Well, let's say, for example, let's just say, what if I did that? Let's say I just have a rock, not even like a crystal. I don't know, maybe all rocks are crystals. I just pick up a common rock, let's call it. Sorry if all rocks you think are unique and special, but
how common is this rock?
it's very common. Like I picked it up next to the sidewalk. So yeah, sidewalk neighbor rock.
That's where the common ones are.
That's where the common ones are, next to the sidewalk.
So you have a common rock.
A common rock. I'm infusing the belief. Let's say that this rock, as I carry it around, will make me financially wealthier and wealthier to the point where it's going to attract me $100,000 into my bank account. What is preventing that from being a reality?
I don't think anything is preventing it from being a reality. I think that it's a misinterpreted series of events. And I think that what's happening there is that you decide that this rock is going to be your point of focus. This is going to be your attention rock on achieving those goals of making money. Because if that's your rock, and if you really, really believe that and you carry that shit around, then your actions are going to be based from that. So you're going to decide, oh man, if I want to make more money, this rock's going to help me make more money. Then it's going to be on your mind. And then you're going to start doing things that bring you in more money or cut out things that you don't need to spend money on. So I think it's really just that the rock's not doing anything except a focus point of attention itself.
It's just giving me a place to speak into existence my actual desires and intentions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I'm curious, though, back to the crystal thing specifically, there is this other piece of, certain crystals seem to have certain agreed upon qualities or even like the quartz. So it's like, to what degree is that also a truth? And like, how does that impact, let's say just the more general, like, oh, I can infuse an intention to anything. Just like when you run, double blind trials, right? It's like there are placebo and not, but it's not everything is placebo. There are actually like nutrients, compounds, chemicals, things that we put into our bodies that have an effect on us, whether or not, like getting that versus the placebo is going to have a greater effect. And that's how we really, test for the effectiveness of these things, right? So like I'd love for you to speak a little more to that in terms of like crystals. What is like the realness of crystals?
That probably starts to move past my knowledge base of crystals because I don't have any specific examples of, well, I guess I do. So funny enough, here I'm wearing a kyanite, which is blue, and mostly what I've learned that is associated with the voice and that it can help you express yourself. And that's funny. So I do use this as like a pendant of belief that encourages or motivates me to express myself when I have it, but I sometimes take time and intentionally, like when I'm playing music at home, sometimes I'll look at it and I'll play music while I'm looking and singing. So I'm like intentionally putting energy into that thing. Now, whether it's that focal point that reflects back to me when I am asking for it or not, I don't know. But if it's working in that way, what's the difference? As far as like another example of a specific crystal that has a certain attribute, I don't know. I stopped at, I didn't memorize any of it other
Stopped
than
after
like
the course.
this one. Say again?
You stopped after the quartz.
No. Well, I stopped trying to remember it and say like essential oils is a good example. So if I have a eucalyptus oil, that's pure oil from a eucalyptus tree, and that I know does something. I rub that in my hands, I cup it over my nose and mouth, and I breathe. And it opens my whole respiratory system. And it's really amazing, and I love it. And I know that works because I do it, and it works every time. if I tried to say, oh, this crystal will open your respiratory system, I don't believe that. I don't believe, oh, okay, well, this person says that it does that, so it does that. And that hasn't been my experience. At the same time, I haven't sought out that particular experience. Now maybe I'll go test it, but...
See, now I've heard people talk about how when they have certain crystals on them or around them, they do consistently have certain types of experiences. So I really love this piece around like belief and how it's related to belief, because even essential oils, like I've heard friends describe similar experiences with certain essential oils. And for me, I'll smell essential oils and they might smell great and I'd be like, cool, this is awesome. But I don't necessarily experience the same profound effects that like other people talk about them, because not because I think they're bullshit or anything, but I just they don't feel as resonant for me in terms of like something that I invest my time, attention, energy, belief into. It's just not the most resonant, healing modality or just experience modality for me. There's other ways that I prefer to have experiences. I just choose other experiences than having more essential oil experiences, if that makes sense. So it kind of makes me think about, to kind of take this whole crystal and essential oil thing to more of like a general topic of, each human being seems to be uniquely drawn to certain things, and to have an inherent level of belief in certain types of things. And maybe some of that we're born with, and it just comes in our DNA or just comes more naturally to us that we're drawn to certain things. And maybe other things, come from our environment, and maybe other things we develop over time. As we maybe spend more time around certain things or exposed to more things, we discover things that are more resonant for us. And kind of the last thing I'll say on this piece is I think it can also change over time.
Yeah.
So one example for me is last year I actually spent a number of months, at least a handful, of regularly using hape, the tobacco where you blow it up your nose and you have this experience. And for a number of months that felt super resonant for me. It was a very clearing practice, very grounding, very integrating for me. And that was exactly what I needed. And I had a lot of, belief in it and energy behind it. And I felt drawn to it. And the experiences I continued to have validated its importance in my life for that time in my life. But then at some point, I started having less draw towards it, less of the experiences that where that left me feeling like, oh, that was like satisfying or worthwhile to do. And then, it shifted actually like pretty quickly at one point where I was like, ooh, I actually don't even want to blow this up my nose right now. And then I knew I was done with it for now. And then I had it actually for the first time in a while last night during like a breath work session that I attended, and they had hape there that they facilitated, and it was great. But also it was like, I didn't feel drawn to like, all right, restart a hape practice or something. So I think they can even like change over time. And, some people, maybe the certain crystals, like their specific qualities are more amplified for them because that's more resonant for who they are. And maybe for someone like me, where it's like you can put 20 different crystals in my hand, it won't make too much of a difference for me other than like, oh, that one looks cool. Like, oh, I like that one. So I just wanted to speak a little more to what was coming up on there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's totally possible. And I don't know if I can say it's probable, but it's definitely possible. It makes very much sense for that to be the case. Everybody's unique frequency, if you will, which is, we'll talk about that probably next. Everybody's unique frequency has certain things like, okay, here, if we sing together, some people's voices sound good together, and they co-resonate in a way that is like the sum is greater than the parts. You know what I'm talking about? I forget that phrase specifically.
Yeah, but I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah, the sum is greater than its parts. Or
it's like two come together and they're like amplified, or it's it's like a synergy kind of thing.
Yes, synergy is a good word for it. So that co-resonance that we would have, if me and you sing together and it sounds good, it's like good co-resonance. But if we don't sound good together, that's not anything about our singing individually. It's something about like, okay, well, these two frequencies aren't a good pair.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so I think that people working with crystals or working with whatever thing that helps them in those ways, I think that's definitely makes sense. As far as this is probably my last thing on the crystals, is as far as frequency and actual measurement of frequency and different wavelengths, I know that along with the crystals, essential oils actually have a measurement of frequency that they've established that applies towards certain things, which is why you go to these like essential oil places and they're like, oh, well, use this for that, use this for healing. Mm-hmm. None of them ever say you can turn negative energy into positive energy, but they do say, well, this applies specifically to that. And it's the history of herbology is kind of a way you can look at that, a way that I can look at that and be like, oh yeah, okay, this makes sense. We've had these herbs for so long that do all these specific things, and they're known to a point.
Don't they say there's like a plant for every ailment or something like that?
I don't know.
I've heard people talk about that. Like any human ailment, like there's like a plant that.
Oh, ailment. I heard element.
Ailment. Yeah.
I believe that. I wouldn't be surprised. If we know all of them, it's a different story. If we can get our hands on the plants that we need, it's also a different story.
Or like to what degree they're able to like address that in a human being that is very complex and you can only compartmentalize their issues so much.
Yeah. Dipping your toes into the holistic healing stuff.
Oh yeah.
So the frequency thing, so each crystal has a measurable frequency, which is why we know quartz can do what it can do for keeping time on clocks. But these other ones, I don't know what frequency they measure at, or all the stuff in the cell phones, all these smartphones today, a lot of it is crystals or minerals that have crystalline structures or crystalline properties. So there is something to them for sure. Now, whether that's a tangible effect that I can feel myself, specifically in sober states, I don't know. I can't always do that. But in sober states, when it comes to attention, that's where the magic is, I think, with that for me. Yeah. With individual frequencies, something I said a few minutes ago, I think, was like everybody has their own frequency, and it's like they're a belief that I like to play around with is that your voice is your soul's frequency. It's like your soul's fingerprint in a way, because that is what you are, because this entire body exists with these cavities inside of it, and we can breathe in through our belly and breathe in through our chest, and we can yell and scream and whisper and change our vibration in all these different ways, and we shape the sound. So it's almost like our whole body is made to do that. It's like made to express, made to shape sound. That's my belief, and that's the belief that I operate from when I'm doing things like writing songs or trying to learn music or whatever. So humming in particular, or not just humming, but like tuning yourself. Like if you tune an instrument, you can tune a string to a certain frequency. And you can use your voice to hit all sorts of different frequencies. But when you're to tune yourself to yourself, that's the art and the practice that I'm exploring through singing and through voice. And that's my favorite thing right now.
Is there like a name for that? Or like, I don't know, can you just like say more on that? I'm curious to hear more of what you mean, like tuning your voice to yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. So,
no, it's super, super fascinating.
So like anxiety is a really good example. So I'll get anxiety sometimes. And then when I get anxiety, I'll be like, I need to do something to get this anxiety out of here. And oftentimes I'll sing or I'll hum or I'll just, and I'll basically use my voice to vibrate my body to move that anxiety out. Kind of like with breath work, you can like remove lactic acid buildup from the muscles through the breath. It's kind of like that, where like I use the vocal cords to vibrate my body, to tune it to a vibration that is me. And the natural state of me is not anxious. So it like vibrates that anxiety away in a sense. That's the experience that I have with it. That's one experience. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing that is like your voice is your own healing tool for yourself. Like you're able to bring yourself into a certain level of like resonance or frequency that you desire, and to like kind of dispel disharmonious frequencies that are in your body.
Well said. Yes. I don't know if there's a name for that, but I hope there is. I hope there's not, so we can make one up.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, that's it. That's the magic of singing to me. But it's not just singing, it's toning and tuning and exploring, because you can do this. If you just do this with me, you go and then you go up, you start to feel it up here, so you can feel the vibration in different locations in the body. So you can do different stuff with it. So you play around with it, see what happens. I don't know, it's fun. It might be magic.
Yeah. But I personally love this topic because I actually tone quite a bit myself.
Do you?
Yeah.
Cool.
So like even just in my car today, I was doing some toning, and just it's so, for me, it's often very grounding.
Yes.
And very centering, and allows me to like clear and integrate like pieces of me that feel a little wonky. Like similar to what you're saying, like getting rid of anxiety. It's like for me, it helps me to
removing disharmonious frequencies. Is that what you said?
Yes.
That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. So it's powerful. Our bodies definitely are like instruments and tools, like if we allow them to be. And I remember one of my favorite experiences that's related to this is I went to a workshop with Porangi.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I got to experience one of his workshops where he does all kinds of cool stuff with his, like playing on his mouth and I can't even do it. You were doing it pretty good.
Yeah.
For those just listening, we're like slapping our face and stuff. It's great. But yeah, it's wild how many different noises we can make with our body, both like on the external and then also on the internal. My voice has really developed in new ways from really going deep with plant medicine work, actually. It's wild. Like over the last year especially, I've had a number of people ask me they're like, whoa, like how do you sing like that? I do this thing where I'm trying to remember what it's called, where you're like singing like two notes at once. What is that? There's like a name for it. It's like
overtone.
Overtone.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I can pretty much overtone. Like I bet if I just practice it slightly, but like naturally I like can overtone sing now. And I never trained for it. I think I've like watched a video on it one time, like a long time ago, but like I never tried to do that. But just like how my voice naturally is developing and me just intuitively following like how I want to express myself and how I want my voice to come out, and just really noticing how it feels and just following that feeling and doing what feels good has allowed me to refine my voice in some really deep ways and like develop some type of, like, I bet if I actually got like a voice coach, which I probably will at some point when, I can add another thing to my plate.
Yeah.
I could probably become a really good singer.
Yeah.
But it really, voice is such an interesting thing. Like, I think, I forget exactly how you said it earlier, but voice is like, it's like the expression of who we are.
The soul's fingerprint.
The soul's fingerprint, yeah.
So I don't mean to interrupt, but
Go for it, yeah.
A question to ask yourself when you're exploring the voice is, what is the natural state of me? Or what is I am? What is the natural state of me? You're not at our core, at our foundation. I don't believe that we're naturally anxious beings. I think that that's a sensory tool that can help us figure out where we're at. But naturally, I think that we're at peace and in love. Yeah.
I agree. And I think the one thing I would add to that as well is, like, I am not only free, but also like having fun. Like at my core, I am fun and like I am having fun. Playful. Yes, I am playful.
Yeah.
And for me, that's what my exploration of the voice has been, is just playfulness and curiosity and willingness to lean into my edges and to, it's also a practice I'm realizing of continuing to release judgment, to come into a place of greater and greater non-judgment for myself, which then in turn allows me to show up in a much deeper energy of non-judgment towards others. Because so quick brief story, I actually hated my voice when I was growing up. So much so that I remember this moment vividly. It was so traumatic in a way, where I was in my parents' room and they were playing back like a homemade video of me just speaking. It was the first time I'd ever seen myself speak on camera and heard myself. And I heard myself speak and I started crying. I started sobbing. I'm like, my voice is so ugly. Like, that can't be my voice. That's not my voice. I was like adamant. I was like, that's not how I sound. And I started crying and I ran out of the room and I just like hated it so much. Like, it didn't sound like me was my experience. And
that must,
it was really impactful. And honestly, even in this moment, I'm having like a different perception of like, like what was that? What was happening there? And there's two thoughts that are coming to my mind. And I'm curious to hear kind of, what you think about these when they come up and if you can relate. So one of them is there's this like field of belief that like we are taught to hate ourselves growing up.
Original sin?
Maybe. Yeah, that's probably part of it. But just like growing up in our society, it's like we're taught like just the default is like negative. Like we're never good enough. We're always looking for the wrong thing. I guess it is probably pretty tied to that. It's like I am sinful in nature. I am bad. I am wrong.
Yeah,
I am ugly.
It's the teaching of you're inherently unworthy,
inherently
to be
broken, unworthy, etc. Yeah. So I think that's like one big piece, right? And I think there's some truth to that of that experience that I was having. There's some of that in there. And I think the other piece is an interesting one, which this understanding I think came later, which is, that was actually true in a way. So maybe there was some falsehood there of like, no, like I'm not actually, like my voice isn't actually ugly and there's not actually anything wrong with it. I think that is true. So, but then the other piece is I think I actually knew something. And when I heard that, I'm like, like my true voice was so buried underneath all of this programming and conditioning and who I thought I was and just a lack of understanding of who I truly am, that what I was hearing was so distorted. It was my true voice was being put through like 100 weird filters. And when it came out the other side, it was different than what I heard in my head or what I could feel or hear in my heart.
Yeah.
And so it didn't sound like me.
Yeah.
And so I think that was kind of true. And it makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's actually something to be sad about.
Yeah.
That I felt so disconnected from my own voice that when I heard it, it was traumatic hearing it and it didn't sound like me.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple of things. I think that you knew that it wasn't you, as far as like you said, you knew something inherently about that was wrong. I think the way that I would verbalize that in my own head about that story is that that's your soul knowing that you have a greater potential and that that's what you're here for and that this isn't matching that greater potential. That's how I view that. And then the other aspect is that 100 filters that your voice is speaking through is the perceptions and expectations of those around you that are shaping you in who and what to be and how to be. That's what those 100 filters are in my eyes. And so as you grow up and you experience things and you see that, okay, well, this is just that person's perspective based on whatever they experienced, and then you can start to filter out those filters and figure out, like now you do freestyle stuff.
Yeah,
you know your voice intimately well now, and you're learning more and getting closer to it every time you do those practices. So then and now is like if you didn't have that experience of, oh, I hate my voice, then I don't know, maybe that wouldn't have been like a catapult, I guess, to what you're doing now.
Yeah. There was so much sensation there. It felt like so big that, and I was so quiet as a kid. I rarely expressed myself, and I think it's like that one of those things where like from our greatest pains, from our greatest traumas come our greatest gifts, or that's like a pointer to, where we have the most room to grow, or where we're most like meant to like strengthen, and where our gifts lie inside of. And I feel like that definitely was the case for me.
Yeah. That's funny you say that. I have a story from my childhood as well that is correlates. So when I was like, I want to say I was 5 or 6, I was living in an apartment with my brother and sister and mom and dad somewhere in Phoenix. And my mom and dad wanted to go out for a date. And so they got a babysitter. Babysitter comes over. Mom and dad are leaving. I don't want them to leave. I'm freaking out. I was pretty unruly at that time, just running around screaming my head off. I actually remember it like visually. And this babysitter was able to like get me into the bedroom and shut and like lock the door somehow, and I couldn't get out. And it was dark in there. The light was off, and I'm 5 or 6 years old, and I'm freaking out. I'm crying. I want my mom. I'm scared. I'm sad. All these things. And then, later in life, I am doing this like guided visualization or guided thing where what's it called? There's a name for it. Don't remember right now, but
what was the experience like?
The experience was they guided me into this spot where I had some tension in my body or something like that, and just breathe into it, and that memory came up of that time that had happened, and wanting my mom and missing my mom, and the person guiding me said, okay, well, if you're alone in a dark room, be there, be where you're at, be with that loneliness and that darkness, and what do you do? So I thought about it as breathing, and I was like, oh, well, I'll turn the lights on. So I turned the light switch on, and now as a kid, I'm in this room that's full of instruments, full of musical instruments, and oh, that's what I do when I'm sad or when I'm feeling, some sort of way. I need to transmute that. I need to get it out, and so I have all these tools at my disposal. We have so many instruments that we can use today, whether it's our chest or our voice or our, guitar. There's so many of these things at our disposal that, like, now I'm applying, and now literally at home, I have a room full of instruments that I go to and I use when I'm in those times, and even when I'm not, just when I want to express, I go and do that. So that's my from then to now story. So wow. Funny how that works out.
Yeah. Yo, thanks for sharing that. That's so powerful. And I really especially love the ending to that story. It makes me realize how important it is to have tools and instruments for expression. And that's something I've become more and more passionate about over the years, because it's brought such value to my life. It's brought such healing. It's brought such safety and like retrieval of my power, I'd even say, to have those instruments available to me, because now I'm not powerless to my emotions. I'm not powerless to how I'm feeling in my state of being. I'm not powerless when there is an intense amount of energy showing up for me in my body, because I actually have something to do with it. I can actually move that energy in some way. I can better understand it even through expressing it and through allowing that to come out and come through. And that is so much better than only knowing how to keep it inside and let it build up. And that's all I could do until it finally burst at some point, or just weighed me down so heavy from just carrying that weight.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to be able to express yourself and move those things through. and to sit with them and understand them. Or like my friend Tim says, metabolize them.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the voice, voice expression. I guess maybe I should share a song with you.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that. Yeah, I would love to, for right before you do, I'd love to just hear a little bit about the process you were telling me about that you've been going through recently, where you've been, not only writing these songs, right? Not only writing lyrics, but you actually been putting an instrument to them as well. Love to hear a little more about that process.
Yeah, so music that I love touches me the most through the words. Of course, it has to have all of these instruments as the foundation and the supporting characters for this main character of the voice. But the words and the meaning combined with the sound that comes through is one of the most potent things to me that affects me. And that's one thing that I love. So I'll have an idea, and I like words. I love words. They're so cool. You can do so much with them. But the way that I have been doing this lately is I'll sing to myself. I'll just be at work because I kind of work by myself. There's not really people around, so I sing to myself pretty often. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I like that. So I'll voice record. I'll do little voice memos on my iPhone. And I'll come up with a song, and it'll be lyrics. And then eventually I'll listen to the voice memos, the different, 12 different drafts of them, and then I'll write down lyrics to a song. And those lyrics will already be, the song's already written. I'm just putting the words down that match it. And then I get to kind of filter it and practice it. And now what I've been doing is I've taught myself guitar a little bit over the last couple of years, and it's been really fun. So I'm kind of good enough to where I can match, or I can pair it with the voice. So I call it writing a song backwards. I start with the words and then slowly start to add the other instruments.
Now, is that I don't know if you know, is that backwards from what a lot of songwriters, or like how a lot of songs are made? Do people usually start with the instruments or the melodies and then add the words on top, or do you think is everyone's process different?
I don't know, but the gist that I've gotten from what I've learned and people I've talked to is that, generally the beat is made first, the foundation, either the beat or the melody, and that's like the memorable part is the melody. I have struggled to make music because of that kind of restricted belief of like, oh, lyrics come, but I could never make a melody and turn it into lyrics. So for me, I have to do it that way. I don't know if it's backwards, but it's different than most that I've heard of.
That's cool. Yeah, because even thinking about it, I mean, that's typically how hip-hop songs are created too, right? It's like,
words first?
No, beat first.
Oh, okay.
You have the beat, and then you write to the beat. That's typically how it's created. That's actually how my first single was created. But I like this idea. I'm definitely going to explore this idea because I just have words come through me sometimes, and I just like write them down, and it's like, man, what if I just like shared these words like with my producer, and then he's like, we're inspired by them, and then he like crafts a beat to the word. I feel like it would just be a different energetic, like different experience. So that's really awesome. So continue and excited to hear this.
Yeah, I actually need beats to be made for myself.
Well, I know a few people if you're interested.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
Okay, so the song that I'd like to share with you is called Lemons, and we were talking about that childhood from then to now thing, where there's this darkness, and then, what do you do with it? When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade, right? Okay, yeah, we'll see. So that's the kind of gist of the song, and that's where it comes from, and I'd like to share that with you now if you're up for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Bear with me. I'm an amateur, and it is a rough draft. Disclaimer.
I'm excited. No, it's this.
If you have sensitive ears, turn it off now. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm all about raw expression and just leaning into edges. So, this is actually an edge for this podcast. It'll be the first live instrument on the podcast. So
cool. So don't fuck it up. No,
don't fuck it up. You can't wait. You can't fuck it up, but you can't fuck it up.
Yeah,
I feel like I can fuck it up. Just referencing a recent Aubrey Marcus podcast. All right, so
you can definitely fuck it up, but you can't fuck it up.
Yeah, in the bigger scheme of things, you can't actually fuck it up. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my microphone down so we don't get any feedback, and then I will turn yours down slightly. We did do a slight sound check before this, so hopefully it will be decent. Apologize if it's not. I know Honey will do her best to edit this audio correctly. And here we go. We'll try it out. We'll see what happens. Enjoy.
I'm getting a no
show.
on the headphones.
No on the headphones. You don't need the headphones. I'll keep mine on. I'll let you know if it isn't sounding great. So, all right. Whenever you're ready, I'm going to turn my mic down now.
Ready. When life gives you lemons or something even worse, say thank you, God. Is this a blessing or a curse? When life gives you lemons or something even worse, say thank you, God, but now my stomach hurts. Life is wise and pain is alive. Why, oh, why does life have pain inside? Pain is a teacher, a sensation, nothing more. But without our pain, we wouldn't know what feels great. So a lemon every now and then can change the pace. A lemon every now and then is a gift of fate. When life gets insane, remember you came through that pain. When life gets insane, remember you came through that pain, and you can do it all again. When life gives you lemons and everything hurts, say, okay, God, so this is how it works. When life gives you lemons and everything hurts, say, okay, God, and squeeze for all it's worth. Life is life and pain is in sight. Why, oh, why are we all going to die? Death is a rebirth that leads us away from here. Without going away, we can't appreciate this place. Without hunger, pain, we couldn't eat what's on our plates. So a lemon every now and then is worth a taste. A lemon every now and then is a gift of grace. gets insane, remember you came through that pain. When life gets insane, remember you came through that pain, through that pain, through that pain. And you can do it all again, but you won't have to, because we learn from our mistakes. That's the Lemon song.
Wow. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Awesome. Get a sound check real quick. How's that? Good?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
So that's the lemon song. What do you do with lemons? You make lemonade. Squeeze for all it's worth. Make the most out of it. Yeah. Going through a real difficult portion of my life right now. Over the last couple of months has kind of birthed that song and that concept, and that's what I've been doing with the solitude that I have lately is the concept of that song, just applying it to my life, of trying to take the difficulty and make something good out of it. So that's where that comes from.
Wow. I love that. And I love how just like raw and real it was. And even just the
Thanks.
imagery that you use, like, oh, and now I got a stomach ache. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a stomach ache sometimes, but
Yeah.
like, yo, that's just all part of it. And like, just so, everybody goes through that, right? Everybody goes through that. I also love the humor. There's like little pockets of humor in there too. And even towards like the very end, it's like, and you don't have to go through this again because we learn from our lessons. And
Yeah.
maybe we don't always learn from our lessons.
Yeah, well,
but eventually, hopefully.
That's like the first part says you can do it all again, and then it leaves it. You can do it all again, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
If you choose to learn from your mistakes, or learn from whatever circumstances are providing that difficult time.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to touch on next a word you just used a minute ago, which is solitude. Being in solitude.
Yeah.
What has been your experience of solitude? I know you've experienced some more solitude the last couple months, but even just in general in your life, on your journey, what has been your experience with solitude?
Mostly I avoid it.
Okay.
That's been the majority of my experience. And when I have solitude, methods of avoidance are, texting people, scrolling through Instagram, watching things on Netflix, all this stuff that doesn't truly help me. So those are my methods of avoidance. And because scrolling through, looking at other people's lives and what they're doing, and it has sound and it has video and all this stuff, makes me feel like I'm connected to stuff when I'm really just in the room by myself. I'm not connected to anything except this, far away experience that's not mine. So that's been the majority of my experience. But over the last couple of months, I've been trying to go away, to walk away from that. And mostly the experimenting with instruments and writing things down has been my best ally in solitude, because I'm starting to appreciate myself more and enjoy the things that I write down and enjoy the process, although it's, time consuming and difficult, the process of refining the things that I write down and being able to make sounds out of it. I have, I wrote this one little thing called Guide My Spirit, and it starts out, damn, I want to dance. Because that was a thought that I had one time. and I just wanted to dance, but there wasn't any song that I could scroll through in my Apple Music that I wanted to dance to. So I'm like, well, what the fuck do I do if I want to dance? I can't find something to dance to. I have to make something. You know, so nothing fit my frequency. Nothing co-resonated with my dance desire. So so I wrote a song about it, and yeah.
Wow, dude, I can't wait to hear that one once.
Oh shit.
But you don't have to go now.
Right on.
But yo, that's
Cool.
dope. I love that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I love the piece you just said. Like, I really lit up when you were talking about, like, yo, if there's not a song that you want to dance to, like, you got to make that song. 'Cause I feel like that was my whole last year, me making my first single. Like, we picked out the beat and first started writing lyrics to the song in January of last year.
Okay.
And this comes after, you know, I started really listening to music not until I got to college. Before then, I didn't really listen to music. Like, I would hear songs. I had no idea who wrote them, even what genre they would be called. I knew nothing about music. And I didn't have my own personal taste, really, other than, like, I found maybe an artist or two or an album or two that I'd listened to. But it wasn't really until college that I really got into music. So I was a bit late to the party.
Question.
Yeah,
You did cross country for a while
I did.
before college.
Yes.
Did you not listen to music when you ran?
No, rarely ever. I almost always... See, I kind of have an opposite experience of solitude.
Oh,
I actually
wow.
had a lot of solitude growing up. I would be by myself a lot, and running was one of those ways that I was with myself. I actually didn't enjoy listening to music most of the time because I found such a rhythm in the running, and I found, like, a certain type of either joy or pain that I was able to, you know, build a connection with and just be with that. So yeah, for me, most of the time I wasn't listening to music.
Wow. That's cool. I won't go 20 feet without it.
Yeah, I know. It's some people are like that. Everyone's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't until college that I really got into music, and I started finding, you know, I found hip hop, and I started listening to rappers and memorizing some songs and stuff. And throughout college, and then for a few years after, you know, I had artists who I really liked and I listened to a lot. And then over time, I kind of just lost interest in almost every artist. And for a number of years, if you asked me, like, who's my favorite artist, I didn't have a real answer. Until a few years ago, I started answering, like, my favorite artist or my favorite artists are actually, like, my friends who I rap with. Like my favorite artists haven't come out with their music yet. Like my favorite artists will be coming out with their music in the next 5, 10, 15 years. My favorite music doesn't exist yet. And I didn't know what the heck I was talking about at the time. Like, I just started saying these things, and I'm like, oh, well, that actually feels more true than me just like saying, oh, this person or that artist is my favorite.
Yeah.
Not that I don't respect and appreciate them or still listen to their music sometimes, but it doesn't light my soul up in a way that I truly desire. And so over the last year, I finally started creating my own music and recording it and refining it and going through that whole process, which I understand how time consuming and, you know, grueling that process can be to do it in the right way that feels authentic. It took me 11 months from conception to actually finishing the song and then finishing the music video and then having our release party to launch it. It took 11 months for one song. And, you know, I hope the next one doesn't take that long, but it's like, you know, that was just the process that it needed to take. And this song, when I made it, I couldn't stop listening to it and dancing to it and singing to it. And it just was so multi-layered and so nourishing to my soul that I'm like, this is my favorite song in the world that I've ever heard. And it's like written by me, and it feels like it's written for me. And it just brought me so much joy. Yeah. And it was literally, the song I didn't hear out in the world, the music that I wanted to hear that really filled me, that really lit me up, and that I wanted to dance to. And so I had to make it. Yeah. If you don't see what you want in the world, you get to create that. So I just really, really love that.
That's how beauty and art gets built, is that there's nothing satisfying enough that you have to do it yourself or create something. And in a way, this having a favorite artist is very limiting. It's too limiting for somebody that like appreciates the subtleties of music, I guess. And because if I pick this one person, well, then I'm stuck with that being my favorite person. It's not always the case. You know, on Monday, it's this person. On Friday, it might be a different person or a different group or whatever. But I was thinking that a crystal, the musician, is kind of like a crystal in that sense of like, you said you got bored of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes I'll use music as a tool. Like if I'm going to go run, which is very, very rare. But if I'm going to work out, I'm playing music. If I'm working, I'm playing music or podcasts or something. So with music being that like propulsion tool for me in those moments, just drew a blank. So it can't always
about like
using it as a tool, using it for a purpose. So I was relating it to the crystal in that way. It's like the crystal. If I put my belief into this tool, then it's going to provide me with this reflection of energy. Of the lyrics mean these things to me, and those things motivate me in these ways, and it's going to propel me forward. So music is the crystal too.
The crystal and the sidewalk rock. And
the sidewalk, the common rock.
Common sidewalk rock. Yeah. Ooh, to kind of like tie it back even further to our initial piece that we jumped off on. So I have this idea about music, and I'm curious to hear how much you might resonate with this, which is I just feel like, okay, so this is my honest feelings about hip hop today. You know, I love hip hop. I really enjoy it in a lot of ways. I also have a hard time listening to a lot of the hip hop that's out there. Yeah.
Is this because of the lyrical content?
That's part of it. Yeah. The lyrical content for me generally feels like pretty recycled and generally negative and generally repetitive and or just like there's not much meaning and depth to it. And not that all music needs to be that, and this is again no judgment on these artists or this music. Like I respect all artists for making art, and I think all art can be authentic to the creator who's making that. I think there's also a lot of creators who create it for, let's say, less than pure reasons or just it's very...
Or reasons that don't necessarily resonate with what nourishes your soul at this time.
Yeah, it's just, there's a lot of, I'm doing this because it's cool or to make money or whatever. We all know that those are part of intentions that some artists will weave into their creations, which it's, again, that is what it is. I don't even have judgment on that. It's just that it doesn't resonate with me most of the time.
Yeah.
But even like, the beats and a lot of the music, it's like, oftentimes a lot darker, harder, almost like vicious, which I enjoy that energy sometimes, and I'll go in on a hard beat for sure. And I just feel like there's such a lack of utilization of what music could be. And what I think most people connect to when they connect to the music that is kind of the considered all-time great music, where there's so much soul and depth in there and intention and even messages. And I feel like there's just so much more available that most artists are not utilizing it for. What if we could really infuse all of our greatest, most empowered intentions and beliefs into our music rather than regurgitating, repetitivizing all of these negative self-talk or experiences? Again, I think expressing someone's authentic experience is valid. And if that's where someone's at and what they need, awesome. If you're experiencing, if you're expressing your experience around some really dark, hard things in your life, really challenging things, do that. Like, that's great. And I do question, how useful is it continuing to do that over and over and over again, especially if you're trying to expect different results. And I just feel like there's so much more available if we were able to shift the intention behind music, to deepen the intention that we put into our music, that again, you as an example, like people are listening to at work, while they're working out, while they're out and about, while they're dancing, we do so many things with music. What if all of that music was infused with our most positive intentions that I'm putting into my common sidewalk rock?
Yeah.
What if we could all infuse those intentions for ourselves and for the world into music?
Yeah.
I feel like there's just such a lack of utilization of this channel of expression, this tool of expression that there could be.
We can infuse all those things, and we are. Lead the way. And somebody's got to do those other things, those musical patterns with impure intention or intention that doesn't serve the good of all, or what have you, so that people like you or me can know what we don't want to express through our music, or music that I would argue is maybe not music, but music itself is the hologram of the soul come into vocal being or audio being. It's your soul's truest expression. Like I said, the song's already written itself. Your soul already exists as what it is. And for you to allow music to come through that is, I think, what you're talking about and what you're leaning toward. Infusing it with these good things, for a lack of a better way to say that.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
I think the only other piece that I really want to touch on around this, so I think there's this whole piece about intentionality in music, right? Which you see a lot more commonly in something you'd put into more of like a spiritual music genre, or like healing music. Or,
And
yes, and there can be even some ingenuity there, like some, kind of fake positivity,
well, that's
that kind of stuff.
That's because like if you're thinking casual spiritual, because spiritual is not a main thing, right? It's not a mainstream thing. There's religion, then there's like weird spiritual people, and there's
like religious music, there's like new age music,
and there's a gap in the middle, and that gap is about to be filled with reverence, and reverence is the thing that needs to connect these pieces.
That's the word.
Because music, what I believe is true music, is reverent, whether it's that aggressive whatever, it's pure expression. But someone like, I don't know, Hobson, you ever heard of Hobson?
Oh yeah.
So like, that's dark, that's hard.
Oh yeah.
And it's pure.
Yeah.
It's real.
Yeah.
So is it reverent? I probably to him, and very much so to him, I imagine.
Sure.
But yeah, I think reverence is the thing that fills that gap, and that's what I'm going to be infusing into, what I write, because it has to. One of the things that I even wrote down as a lyric is that it has to mean something to me. I have to believe in what I'm singing, otherwise it doesn't mean anything. And then it's not my soul's hologram or my soul's fingerprint. It's just something that I wrote down so that people's attention can bring it worth.
Yeah, that word reverence really resonates deeply with me, and is becoming one of the deepest guiding values and principles in my life lately. And it's come up for me in ceremony a number of times lately, and it's one of my deepest intentions for how I show up and what my energy really is about. And actually, like, this other word that's coming through right now is relevance. So it's like the idea is like, how do I fuse together reverence and relevance? Because I feel like they're usually separate in a way. It's like you can have very like gospel music, right? And not that gospel music can't also be relevant, right? None of this is a hard line or anything, but it's like, hey, people who are into that really listen to that. But that's kind of its own thing. People who listen to new age music, they're really into that kind of thing. People who are into, trap, are really into that, and that's relevant. It's very relevant. It's very like, hard hitting and, catchy and on all of that. Like, there's a lot of feeling in it.
But the reference itself is not currently relevant.
Yeah.
Which is where that gap exists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rare that you see both of those come together. And that's the whole point of casual spiritual. The casual is the relevance, and the spiritual is the reverence. That's like another way to say casual spiritual is relevant reverence.
Yeah.
Which I actually haven't put those words together before. So that's a really cool new fusion there.
Right on.
I think that's like an ultimate, that's like a life goal for me. Like that's like an ultimate challenge. Like how can I figure out, how can we, me and I know others who share a similar desire, how can we figure out how to make music that is relevant to most people? Not from an intention, right, of like, oh, like I gotta make it big, or I gotta go mainstream, or I gotta make money. It's like, no, like I just want to make music that touches more. Like it's great right now. Like my music, for the 500 people who've watched my video, I'm sure they fucking love it. Like it's like I know they do. They tell me that.
Yeah.
And that's great. And man, how cool would it be to make something that's that meaningful and reverent and fun, that also reaches 500,000 people?
Yeah.
You know, wow, how amazing would it be? Because like my song, you know, it has very many layers of meaning in it. And, you know, there's a reason that the people who love it, like, really love it. And there's a reason that I love it and have literally listened to it hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Like, I swear to God, there's no one who has and ever will listen to my song more than I've listened to my song. I hope one day someone proves me wrong. That would be wild.
That'd be impressive.
But you know, what? Like, how can we do that? How can we make music that is so broad and infuse it with so much meaning and messages and like catalyzations even inside of, like, how can we infuse that with medicine?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I know.
I know. It's like the, all right, you go. I could go on this forever.
Just by doing it and by letting it be, and by it being the topics of destiny versus free will, or what did I put? Planning and destiny. Because if it's your soul's authentic expression, then that's what's going to be expressed. And if that's what we're here meant to do, which is what my belief is, then the expression that gets created through the soul is going to fall on the ears that it's meant to fall on. And if it's good and has that intention of having a positive impact or a good impact, then I believe that it will be carried forward and expanded in that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said that weird.
What I heard in that is if the expression is pure and authentic, and if there are people who are meant to hear that and receive that, then they will.
Yeah.
And it will find a way to carry itself to those whom that medicine is meant for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It'll have that impact, whether it's 500 extremely powerful impactings or 500,000 extremely powerful impactings.
Yeah. Want to hear something wild about that?
About what?
About the 500, or about that song.
Yeah.
I already feel like I accomplished my life's mission with creating that song.
Your life's mission?
Yeah. Like I could,
So what you said a few minutes ago about your life goal being to combine the reverent and the relevant, that mission?
Yes. So that happened in that song.
So
that's step one.
Yeah.
Let's say that like I feel complete that I did the thing
Yeah.
that I came here to do,
But
I'm not done.
Yep.
I'm just getting started, but I did do the thing. So like I ask these questions partially knowing the answers, but also partially having the humility of like, I don't really know. And I'm just on this journey and I'm just figuring this out. And I've got some ideas. I got some pretty good ideas actually on how it might happen, but that's not even the most important thing. And I really want to go back to what I heard you just saying, which is like the most important thing is just showing up and creating the thing from the most pure, authentic place possible, and trusting that if that is a genuine expression of your soul, and if it will be medicine for others, that it will reach them.
Yeah.
But that also doesn't mean, and this is where there's a lot of nuance here of like it doesn't mean the whole like law of attraction. Oh, I just think about the thing and then it happens. No, it's like
You got to put
maybe
in work.
part of that is I'm inspired to take certain actions. I'm inspired to market it in a certain way. I'm inspired to share it with a certain audience. I'm inspired to do these certain things that will continue to help this message and this medicine to be received by those who are meant to receive it. Because even, with that 500 people, it's like, I bet you there's at least 500, if not 500,000 more people who would love to hear my song and who it would be a deep medicine for if they only knew about it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, my work isn't done until over many years, I continue to find more and more ways, make more and more connections, grow my reach more and more, and continue to refine my medicine so that every time I release a new expression, a new piece of medicine, there are more people who are ready and able to receive that. So it's really a long, long game that I'm here to play, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not here to be an overnight. Like this podcast, actually, it's like, I have some pretty big goals and dreams for it. I would, love to see this hit, into the 4-digit number of episodes, and I don't need it to reach any larger audience than it's able to reach at any one time. It's like we're coming up on episode 25. We're like almost a quarter way to 100, right? It's like I'm down to do 500 episodes of this until a bigger audience finally gets it and sees it. Like what I believe that we're doing something special here, having these kind of deep conversations that I believe with each one of these conversations, one, I'm changed by each conversation and I grow and I evolve. And the people that I have these conversations with seem to really get something out of it as well. And then at least one other person, if not at this point, a number of people listen in on every episode or a lot of episodes, and they get to be impacted. And I hear people's experience and it shifts things, it changes things, even if it's just in this small microcosm of the collective right now. It's like, again, back to what you were saying of trusting that if it's coming from the soul, if it's meant to reach certain people over time, eventually it will. You just keep doing the thing and keep getting better at it, and more people are going to feel inspired to share it. And I really am learning a deep trust in that. And it's not easy. Like, it's like a part of me wants to be like, oh, I gotta blah, blah, blah. Like, it's got to reach these people. What if nobody listens? Like, there's still those thoughts that happen, right? But it's also at the same time, like, I'm just happy to create. I'm happy to connect, and I'm happy to continue walking this path and trusting in where it's leading me.
Yeah, that's it. Just make it pure. Whatever it is, just make it pure, and the rest will fall into place. And while it's falling into place, you'll be guided to what work you have to put in, marketing, for example, to continue that. So that's my job with making this stuff, is to make it as pure as I can from a place of experience, ideally.
What is your desire or your intention with your music, if you had to try and speak to that?
Desire, make it pure. Intention, to let it be a pathway to joy in my life. And that's mostly what it is so far. I love it. It's so much fun, whether I'm by myself or whether I'm, playing for somebody else I haven't really played with anybody else, but whatever it is, it's a pathway to joy. And then, as far as a goal, one goal would be to be able to get like a live looping type setup, because I play a bunch of different instruments a little bit. So I
like
can,
the didgeridoo.
Yes, yeah. There's a didgeridoo, the native flute, the weird ones, the jaw harp, the bass guitar, the keyboard, the acoustic guitar. There's a few other ones, but yeah, to be able to, in real time, build a song in front of somebody, because I can do that. I can build a song. I've done it. I've recorded it in different layers. Like, I'll play the drum track and then I'll, do the next layer and then I'll sing over it, and it sounds great. I love it. It's awesome. But I can't do that in real time. It takes 2 hours, 3 hours to do something like that. That's a rough draft.
Sure.
So eventually that would be a goal, to be able to perform live or to be gifted a group of musicians that want to play the music that I write. That would be the secondary goal. So, but I don't want to necessarily depend on other people to express what I'm making. I want to be able to do it myself, but it would be a gift. So that actually, one of the other things I wanted to talk about was sovereignty. I don't know how this transitions into that, but
yeah.
so
Well, I just want to say, like, I love those intentions, and I love that you're exploring like multiple instruments and that you want to like create live music like that, because I also have that desire. We were talking right before we actually started recording of how I want to eventually, you know, learn how to make beats, and you know, I would love to do like a live, like I make the beat, I sing over it, I rap over it, I make noises with my voice as like part of the beat. Just like really like full on like create a song in front of people, and then just like channel a freaking rap, you know, that's like messages for the people who are there listening. Like that's definitely a dream.
Oh man, that brings me to something that I haven't even thought of based on your previous question is the live aspect of music, not necessarily music that's already been created, but the on the fly, the freestyle, essentially, you know, not necessarily rap freestyle, but any kind of like, you're feeling the space that you're in and you're sensing the people that are there, and through you something is able to come, a form of medicine that can touch the people that are in that space, in that immediate area. And it's something that happens once and it'll never happen again in that same way. But to be able to refine the self, to be able to do that on a regular basis, I guess that would be my desire.
That's a challenging one, and definitely a path that I've been on for a while, and I've got certain elements of that are at a certain point of development, and other elements that still have a ways to go. But it definitely, I share that desire, and that's such a unique energy to be in, to have this like uniquely tailored musical, even medicinal experience, to like receive that just like freestyle inspired, intuitive, like channeled expression. Just like what a gift that is to experience and to give and to share.
To me, that's what the bard is, or the minstrel, I think is the other word. The person in medieval times that would just walk around performing music at their will, at their whim. And that style of expression, I think, can be hugely beneficial. You know those things where you have a challenge to, you know, buy flowers and give them to a random stranger. It's like that type of thing. You can totally brighten someone's day just by doing that. And to be able to, you know, make maybe even deeper shifts by doing it musically, that's something else too. I like that.
Yeah. Shout out Harry Mack for being one of the most inspiring expressionists that I know. Are you familiar with Harry Mack? The GOAT freestyle rapper. Look him up on YouTube. He's the most incredible off the top, you know, rap artist out there.
Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome.
Sorry if you disagree with that, you're wrong. Incredible. And just like such a good human being, like such a big hearted human, and like so kind, but so brilliantly talented. He'll like go on, are you familiar with Omegle?
No.
It's like an app or a site where you basically get paired with like random people.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
And you can just, you know, share random skills or just have conversations with random people. So he'll go on there and create freestyle raps for people and record these videos of him doing it, where they'll pick 3 words and he'll make the most elaborate, intricate, custom tailored rap for them, and weave in exactly what they're wearing and doing into the words, and have such a beautiful, you have to watch it.
That's awesome.
Shout out Harry Mack. He's like one of the best to ever do it. And so much inspiration from that.
Very cool.
Definitely check him out.
Very cool. I think that one-on-one version of what I just described has a huge potential for being what you said as a medicine, which it is. And, you know, it can be. A lot of things can be medicine, but that would be, I think, your intention with it and what it does for you, as well as mine, making music. But to that one-on-one effect that's possible, especially when you can feel into someone and feel what they're feeling and play, not play for them, but play into them, play into what's their internal experience. If you're able to sense that and have that be the medicine, bring something out or open up so that something can move.
Man, now like as you're saying that, I like just imagine myself becoming like a plant medicine, because I feel like what you just described is a lot of what I experience when I'm working with plant medicine, where it's like it's able to bring out of me a custom tailored experience exactly what I need.
Yes,
because
exactly.
it's able to know me and reflect me so well that it's
it reaches into you on different layers.
We can like literally create those level of experiences for people if we become skillful enough, I believe. And if we're pure enough in our intentions, that like we could like facilitate that level of transformation with someone in communion with them, in unison with them. That inspires me.
That's good stuff. It's another level or another version of that type of thing is when you're speaking to somebody, or when I speak to somebody, oftentimes, if it's beyond slightly a surface level conversation, or even if it's somebody you bump into on the street or at the grocery store, speak into what you know that their heart's potential is, and speak to that place when you talk to them. And that's how it can be pure and authentic, is the heart's potential, your own depth, your own love, and you also know that that's possible in everyone else. So speak to that place in others, and you might see some wild shit happen. Some good change. But
I love that. Well, we've got just a little bit of time left, maybe a little less than 10 minutes. Would love to dive into that last topic of sovereignty. What does that mean to you? What comes up for you? What inspires you about that word sovereignty?
That's a deep topic, and there's a lot that could be said about it. I think the initial true American spirit is sovereignty. And it's not only freedom of expression, but it's the ability to establish boundaries and to hold those boundaries, and for other people to respect that. And I guess that's it in its most simplest form, is freedom. If you're sovereign, you're free. You choose that freedom, whether it's I guess when it's internal, you can choose that. And sovereignty is, to me, the ability to exist as free while maintaining boundaries around yourself that prevent that from being fucked with. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Cool.
What I hear in that is there's a deep amount of safety that you've been able to create for yourself, and you're able to move through the world in a powerful way, in a way that you desire, and as opposed to being pushed or pulled around by the world or by others or by life. It's like showing up from a place of centeredness and autonomy, and really I just feel like a lot of creative energy in that. Like you are creating your life, and you're creating your boundaries, you're creating your own opportunities, or at least like choosing them and taking those opportunities and paving your path forward, rather than submitting to others or outside forces doing that for you. It's like you are the master of your own reality, and you get to decide the direction of the course of your journey. And I really love that. And the one piece that I'll even add to that is this idea of like mutual sovereignty and like collective simultaneous sovereignty. And I think that's a pretty wild idea for most people, other than beyond of like, oh yeah, everyone should be free. But it's like, how does that actually look? And do you actually believe that's possible? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like most people's imagination probably can't even conceive close to what that actually looks like, because we live in a world that is such not that. Like, I have a hard time sometimes imagining what that is, even though that's what I feel like I'm building towards and paving the way for and creating for myself. It's like, what does a world look like where all beings are showing up as sovereign beings, where they are free, they are, I will add, in their hearts, showing up from a place. Well, you almost have to be at some point, right? Like, if I am a sovereign being and I have these boundaries and I want to live freely, and if I realize I am part of this bigger thing, if I'm a cell in this organism called humanity, me invading or penetrating or destroying the sovereignty of another is actually in some way like I'm actually not tuned into the bigger concept of sovereignty, the bigger experience of sovereignty that's available, and if I'm violating somebody else's sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the only way I'm truly living in sovereignty is if, more and more all of us are able to have more and more of that experience. Otherwise, I'm just an oppressor. Otherwise, I'm just another tyrant, if you will, who has a inflated ego about myself and think that I'm just living my free life, you know,
while stepping on
and
others.
now I'm just on my way to become another dictator of the world, and that's like not what we need, not what I want to become.
Yeah, to break someone, or to try and like break into someone's sovereignty is an offense against yourself, because that's giving anybody else, that's saying that these are the boundaries that you're willing to cross in someone else. So not cool. And
yeah, if I wouldn't want someone to cross those boundaries within me, I'm not in integrity. If I'm crossing those within them, I'm not actually truly sovereign in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and also to be sovereign is, your question was like, well, what if everybody was able to achieve that level of sovereignty, which I think is what we're working toward. And if and when that continues to happen, a generalized result of that is that the potential of humanity will be greater than the sum of its parts. Well, that collective, when it's like that coming together, it's like, okay, well, when we come together, we each have our own individual goal and intention, but at the same time, I know that one of your individual goals is goodness, is to bring goodness to humanity on some level with whatever you do, to be of service. And I know that that's part of mine too. So knowing that I know that you know that about me.
Yep.
So knowing that is a thing with each other, we can come together and have this conversation and or do other things that are able to touch people and bless people and make good positive change in the world. And that shit's contagious. So I think that recognition of sovereignty is something that can become greater than the sum of its parts once again.
Yeah. As that man on the Aubrey Marcus podcast would say, gorgeous.
Gorgeous. 1,000 times over, gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Yes.
Well, I have a song here that I wrote. It's the first song that I wrote. It's called Freedom. And it's kind of controversial, but I'd like to share it because I love it.
Let's do it. We can end on that note. I love that.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll do a little transition here to end out. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will link in the show notes if you want to get in touch with Andy about anything we chatted about today. And I will kind of let this episode end on the last note of the guitar. So here we go. This is Freedom.
What's it worth to you? What's it worth to me? What's it mean to you? How's it feel to be? How's it feel to be? What is freedom? Who defines it? What's this freedom? Can I buy it? Oh, this freedom. Do they own it? This freedom. Who controls it? I bet you've always heard that freedom is not free. I bet you've always heard that freedom will cost me. I'm here simply to disagree. It's a matter of perspective, and there's different degrees. My freedom's free. Freedom is free. Freedom is free. Freedom's here inside you and me. It's every color that we see, all our forms of belief, every breath we can breathe. I choose to be free. I choose to feel me. I choose and I choose to believe. Freedom is found internally. Freedom's inside us and always will be. Feeling into me shows me I am free. What's it worth to you? What's it worth to you? What's it worth to me? What's it mean to you? How's it feel to be free? What is freedom? You design it. This is freedom. Do you mind it? Here's your freedom. Go and find it. Be that freedom and don't deny it. Freedom is free. Freedom is free. Freedom is free. Freedom's here. It beckons to me. It's every note that we sing. It's in our hearts. It's